Hello students. So welcome to the management case study analysis for May-August 2022. So students, this time as you are able to see the screen, you are clearly seeing a tea cup and a tea leaf. So this time they have given into tea manufacturing sector. So please remember one thing students, it is tea manufacturing sector. It's nothing related to tea plantation, it's manufacturing sector. So students, your first concentration should always focus on the tea manufacturing sector. Now students, before I move forward into the detailed analysis, I just want to give you some guidance on the management case study, what you need to have. So before we do the analysis, it's always recommended you have the pre-seen material in your hand and also a paper and a pen where you can make the notes with me. So students, as you know, the management case study analysis, your role is going to be a finance manager. So students who are doing the examination, you need to be very careful of finance manager role, because nowadays there are three routes of students who are coming. There is the student who comes from OCS to the management case study. So students who has passed OCS, please be careful. The writing style is completely different for MCS because you are not a finance officer anymore. The students who are coming from the gateway route, also please be careful. You would have had an MBA, but the writing style in the CIMA is little more towards the business. It's not academic, it's more professional. And also the students who are from the FLP route, that is the finance leadership route, you need to be very much careful because you are given an access to a portal, but that portal is only giving you the basic knowledge. So you need to make sure you acquire the full understanding in detail before you do the analysis as well. So students, one more thing that I need to be very specific is the content mapping. So students coming into the content mapping, you have to be very much careful with the areas. That means you need not memorize anything, but you need to be very much concerned about the areas. Now, one examination tip I always say, that is many students who refer the study text for the F2 areas, they generally go through the entire consolidation in detail, and most of your time is spent on consolidation in learning. So students, be very careful when you are doing consolidation in the case study examination. They only want you to give the suggestions on the impacts only. They will never ask you to prepare a full consolidation. And similarly students, when it comes to the P2 as well, there is investment decisions, which is the investment appraisal section. So in this section also students, you need to be very careful about the understanding of the concepts in detail, because in most of the cases they will already give you the workings which you need to give the interpretation as well. So students coming into the business sector of the tea plantation, anyway the predictions, if you observe, there will be a business expansion for sure. So please make sure that you are very strong with the investment appraisal area students. And also students coming into the responsibility centers have a basic idea and the transfer pricing. And as usual students, the risk management is also a key area. And coming into the E2 section, as you already know, project management, again they will ask you the required skills and competences only students. So make sure that you are clear with the technical analysis as well. And the F2 area, as usual, they always go with the cost of capital, and also they connect the consolidation because there are high chances of a vertical and a horizontal integration in the examination. Now students, coming to the next section that you need to be even more concerned is the co-activity table students. As you know, this area is very important because the CIMA examiner will be always concentrating where the student is able to write the answer specific to a situation. Now here if you see, I can explain the pricing strategies are appropriate. Now you need to make sure to piping. So students, you need to be very careful of how piping operates, what is the business ecosystem, and you need to connect it. So don't worry students, anyway when we are doing the case study analysis, you will get the understanding. But coming back to the ideology, please remember one thing students, no calculations, that is the first thing. The calculations will be effectively converted into interpretation. So understand it very clearly. Calculation will end up as interpretation. Okay, students, now coming into the pre-seen material. So as you know, piping is a tea manufacturing sector, and you are always aware that the COVID-19 statement they mention, because most of the students are writing the answers thinking it's a pandemic situation. Unless and otherwise they specify, or unless and otherwise you feel it relevant, then you can do the COVID-19 statement. Now students, coming into the table of content. Now introduction, if you observe students, it's generally focused on the business aspect, the business skill they will give you, the role, everything. The tea industry is also specifically focusing on the business application. Growing and processing tea, again the business application most probably they are giving. Tea manufacturing, once again the business application. Tea consumption is also once again the business application. The piping histories and the product is a very specific business application. So I'll just write it down as a specific business application, because you are the manager of this organization. So you need to be aware about the business application in detail. Operation is once again a business application, and then marketing and distribution is again business application. Social responsibility can be business plus the people as well, and the management structure is the people and the leadership of the organization where they are work functioning as. And the business model, how they operate, they always give this to make sure whenever there is a proposal coming in, you are able to apply it properly and connect it properly to the situation. And the competition, that's again the business analysis. And the extract of the annual report and the HATLO, that is the competitors one. I will do a separate video on the financial analysis as well. And the news report, this gives you the current issues in the market. So students, just be careful. These are the very important thing. Now, one of the key reason why students find it difficult is they do too much of industry research. Now students, if you see the tea industry sector, now you see the blue color area which I am highlighting or which I am circling. This area is the industry stack. Now you need not do real life industry in detail, students. Whenever you come across, that's fine, but doing too much real life analysis will make your presence of mind difficult in the examination. Now students, coming into the introduction, so let's start analyzing the introduction with the areas. So piping beverage is a quoted company that manufactures packaged tea for sale for retailers. So they package it and sell it for retailer, and it's a quoted company. So you need to be very much specifically about IAS 33, the EPS, the cost of capital. Students, please be very careful about that, and also the corporate governance. So students, be very careful. They have specifically mentioned it's a listed organization, and in case if there is a merger and acquisition, please be careful about the IFRS 10, students, the business combination, the consolidation, and the goodwill adjustments also very important. For sale to retailers, so they are packaged and sale to the retailers. So effectively, students, it's a B2B business. Currently they have not gone directly to the consumers, they are selling to the retailers. Piping buys teas that it uses in bulk on the open market. So they buy the tea leaves from the open market and they sell. So students, there can be an issue of procurement on the quality of the purchase, and also there can be TQM, that is the total quality management, which you need to be aware about. So piping is based in Northlandia, so that is the country they are specifically stating. A developed country, so you need to be very careful. The standard of living will be higher and the purchasing power will also be high, so they can generally afford even premium brands provided the quality level is strong and the compliance requirement will be high. So developed country students, you need to be very careful. The compliance requirement is very high. In developed countries, the compliance requirement is very high. That means you need to follow the rules and regulation of the government, and a strong economy whose citizens have high standard of living. So Northlandia's currency is in dollars. So you need to be aware there can be international expansion as well, students, for your understanding. International expansion, when it comes to the picture, you may have to go through IAS 21, that is the foreign currency translation. And Northlandia's company law requires company to prepare financial statements in accordance with the IFRS, that is the International Financial Reporting Standards. So students, in your examination, the question number 4 will effectively be an area from this section. You are a finance manager at Piping's head office. Your primary responsibilities are associated with management accounting. You report to Chanadi Silva, the senior finance manager, who directly reports to the finance director. So they have already given you the ideology of how the structurization has been done. So now coming into the tea industry students. So this is the industry analysis as per the official examiner. So students, be very thorough with this, because these are official documents they are giving. Traditionally, tea is a hot drink made by soaking dried leaves of Camellia sinensis. Students, remember this Camellia sinensis, because there is an idea. There was an article later when we go through, you will understand. There was an article relating to the botanist. Students, the botanists are the people who can develop the tissue culture. In other words, they can do some artificial modification on the plants and make them grow anywhere they like. So Camellia sinensis name is very much common, and please be remembering these students in the examination, because as a finance manager your knowledge will be very much appreciated in the exam platform. By boiling water, Camellia sinensis is a clearly defined family of shrubs that include number of specific varieties. Leaves, plants, and buds from many other plants can be used to make drink that are often referred to as tea. Although strictly the title should be restricted to leaves from one of the shrubs belonging to Camellia sinensis family. All the reference to tea in this document will be to products and drinks made from Camellia sinensis leaves only. So students, their examiner has repeated this term many times. So students, please be careful that they are specifically focusing on the Camellia sinensis leaves only at the moment. So indirectly he is telling, when you are doing excess research, be careful. Don't be going outside the scope of what he requires in the exam. Now, students, coming to the next one, growing and processing tea leaves. So they are giving the process. Camellia sinensis is grown commercially in South Asia. South Asia can be India. Students, India is South Asia. Bangladesh is South Asia. Then we have Sri Lanka, because you may be very much aware about the Ceylon tea, the brand. So Sri Lanka, the tea is also popular. So East African countries can be Kenya. Okay, so remember these things. The best tea shrubs are grown in an altitude between 1000 to 2000 meters. So these are the data they are giving. And one more thing, students, these are nature. So these are nature. So you need to be very careful with something called organic versus inorganic. Students, organic versus inorganic. So I will write it down for you, students. Organic versus inorganic. So students, there can be something called ethical issues. Now students, I'll just write down here for your understanding as ethical issues. There are high chances, students, there can be something called ethical issues in the examination. Because students, you promise organic item and you give inorganic items. There can be situations in that. So keep that in mind very specifically. Now students, coming into the application once again. So they are saying the shrubs on the tea plantations have a useful life that vary between 40 to 100 years. Now students, this is not there in your syllabus, but there is an accounting standard specifically called IAS 41 called agriculture. You can just do this as a research. It will be very interesting. Now this we call is as bearer plants, because these plants produce the items for more than one time. Mango tree is a bearer plant, because you can get mangoes many times from that. So just remember, students, indirectly it's known as a bearer plant. Depending on the specific variety of Camellia sinensis shrub, the leaves are harvested by plantation workers. Now students, one thing you need to be very careful, plantation workers, although we are not having any own plantation, There is something called health and safety, students. Just remember health and safety. And also, students, there is another thing called human rights, because human rights are very, very essential in that case. So be very careful. Who pluck the teas from the bushes from every 7 to 14 days. So once in a week or in a fortnight situation, they will be doing the plucking things. The leaves are then processed using two main methods to produce two different types of tea. Now, here are the widely used the two different types of tea. Now, students, I will just put a triple star for black tea. Why I am putting this is, students, you may already know that black tea is our major production in piping. So, green leaves are spread on the racks to dry before being treated mechanically to break up the leaf cells. The processed leaves are left to absorb oxygen. Once they have oxidized, they are blown with hot, dry air, which turns them black. The black tea is sometimes referred to as the made tea or the dry tea. So, students, just remember made tea, dry tea. Now, if in case of a rebranding, there are situations. Now, you see our organization is established in 1852. You will already know that. But students, get this understanding. Now, black tea can also be repositioned in the term of made tea or the dry tea. So the next tea that is popular at the moment is the green tea. But unfortunately, students, we are not producing green tea. So I'll write down here, there can be opportunity in your examination. In your examination, there are high chances of an opportunity where you can move ahead with the green tea production as well. So green tea is made by steaming and heating the green leaves after they have been plucked. The leaves are not processed further and they remain green. So it is very much organic, because students, they always say the green tea is healthy as well and it has many health benefits. The main reason you identified, it's just kept green. But if you see the dry tea, it is oxidized. So there is an oxidizing process that is there, and there needs to be a standard also, students, you need to be very much careful with. There is some further processing at the plantation, with slightly different processes depending on whether the leaves are to be sold to make loose tea bags or tea bags. The leaves are bagged and sold to tea manufacturers. So what happens is the leaves are sold to the manufacturer, and one manufacturer is only piping. So there can be many manufacturers in the world who are producing the tea leaves in a packaged form after blending. So I will come to that as well. So black tea is sold in bulk as a commodity, with many tea growing countries operating tea auctions, enabling manufacturers to bid against another in order to acquire supply of tea leaves. Now, students, here there is a specification of auction. So just remember one thing again, there can be an ethical issue, because during the auction process there can be a situation of an inducement or a bribery, because students, there can be a situation of an inducement or a bribery which will definitely affect the business processes. Now, students, black tea leaves from different countries have different flavors. The flavor can also be affected by the plantation where they are grown. So students, one of the major risk is the taste, because you need to be very careful, because consumers may be used to a certain taste, and it always depends on the area what they are grown in. So in case if you are changing the places, there can be a taste bud issue that can affect your sales as well. Manufacturers must keep the particular flavor of their tea blends and will often bid for leaves from specific plantation to help the blending process. So students, coming down to the tea commodity, now if you observe the prices are slowly reducing, I can generally feel there can be an excess supply, students. There can be an excess supply, because when the supply is a little higher, there are situations the prices may reduce. And also students, substitutes also can come into the picture, because students, if you see substitute for tea is coffee, again it's a hot drink, So coffee is a substitute to the tea aspect as well. So just keep that in mind, students. So substitute factor is also there. Now coming into the tea manufacturing process. So again, this is an industry statistics what we are analyzing. So the tea manufacturers import the tea leaves purchased at the auction from the growers. And this is the same thing that will be also done by piping as well, because they go to an auction and buy directly from the growers. Then they are blended and packaged ready for sale to the retailers. Now students, one of the major process is blending and packaging. Now students, the blending and packaging plays a major role, students. The blending and the packaging plays a major role. Each batch of the black tea is slightly different flavor because factors such as weather condition during the growth. Tea manufacturers deal with employing skilled blenders to taste the samples of each batch of tea leaves under the laboratory conditions. So that is a very important point. The tasters note the precise flavor characteristics of each batch and determine a blend from different batches that will create a consistent flavor and a particular brand or the brands of tea. So students, again, the blending plays a critical role. So I will write down here, students, blending is a critical success factor. So I will just mention blending is a CSF. So be very careful, students. The mix of leaves from different sources varies slightly according to the flavors of each batch of tea leaves that arrives at the factory. But the tea that is sold should always taste the same when it brewed by the customer. So that's the idea there. When the customer makes the tea, it should taste the same. So once the tea is blended, it is packaged and prepared as a product for sale to the consumer. Now students, the packaging plays a major role. So I will just write down here packaging. There can be, I can say, marketing. Because students, if you generally see, some products are highly tasty, but their packaging is very poor. But some products are successful because of their packaging. So remember that, students, it's very important. Tea is sold to customer in a different forms. So students, these are the tea category forms that we are going to experience in the industry currently. So I'll write down here, piping generally sells the loose tea. They generally sell it. And another thing that piping is very much specialized is the tea bag. So it's very clear that our company, what we are going to learn, will have the aspect of this. But teapots, I'll write down, it can be an opportunity, students. I will mention teapot, there can be an opportunity. Just remember one thing, teapot is mostly an opportunity to the business. And ready to drink tea is also an opportunity, students. Ready to drink tea is also an opportunity to the business. Now, students, let's come into the detailed application so that you will understand how we are going to segment this. It's not so complicated, it's very easy and simple. So just a minute, students. Okay, so loose tea leaves are sold in packets. Consumers spoon the leaves into the teapot, other receptacle in the boiling water. They mix the allowed stand until the water has been infused with the flavor. Loose tea is generally made out of high quality tea leaves depending on drinkers' taste and preference. Each cup of tea requires roughly 3 grams of leaves. So they generally need 3 grams of leaves. And as you know, students, this is the most popular tea in Asia because most of the people prefer brewing the tea from the loose tea packages because the taste can be little more higher. And coming to the tea bags, now the tea bags is also popular among the working class and also many people around the world. So tea bags are made by enclosing loose teas in small bags of porous material. Now students, porous material, we need to be very careful of how they do the recycling, because students, we need to be very careful of the packaging and the recycling as well. The bags vary in composition, but they are usually made from paper, plastic and gauze, sometimes a mixture of two more raw material. The consumers can use the teapot or simply put the tea bag in the cup or the mug and add boiling water. The tea then infuses as for the loose tea. So moving forward, students, into the detailed application, tea bags requires the leaves to be ground more finely at plantation because water cannot flow through the leaves as freely as for loose tea leaves. A typical tea bag contains 1.5 gram of tea leaves, students. Get this understanding very, very well. So this is a basic idea of a tea bag, and they have given the standard content as well. Now coming into the teapots, now these are new business opportunities that we can consider. So teapots are sealed plastic containers that are designed to fit the same machines that used to make a coffee from the coffee pot. Each brand such machine requires pots that are made to accommodate a unique shape. Consumers insert the pod into the machine and fill the machine tank with the water. The machine heats the water, punctures the pot, and forces the hot waters through the pot. So this is how it is there in the canteens also. The Nescafe, the Nestea machines like that, similar to that. So the ready to drink is something a little different because it's a little new and the idea is little different. Tea is sold in bottles that are intended to be consumed chilled. That means these are cold, students. Now, generally, tea is a warm drink, but these are cold. The manufacturers brew batches of tea which are then cooled and bottled for sales to the retailers. So, get the understanding very, very well because it's very important, students, that you get the application of this clearly. So, tea consumption. Tea is second only to water as most widely consumed drink in the world. Although the popularity varies significantly between countries, Northlandians, that is the local market, consumes an average of 1.9 kilos of tea per person each year, putting them near to the top of the global ranking of Northlandia of 8 countries, where annual average consumption exceeds 1 kilo per person. So students get this understanding very, very well that Northlandia has a tea culture. So definitely tea will have a inelastic type of supply because students, it has a culture. So it's inelastic. So people are used to drink tea. So the price differences may affect, but still we need to be careful how the competitions are also in the local market. So the tea drinking is deeply rooted in many national cultures. Get that point of view very, very well. Tea contains caffeine, which makes it refreshing, students. Tea is hydrating. It helps to store the fluid and beneficial on hot climates or when taking break from work or exercise. Tea is also believed to increase the body's defenses against number of serious illnesses as well. So students are coming into the worldwide retail tea sales. Now, even if you see, students, the forecast is showing a positive growth. And I still feel there is a drop because of the pandemic, I think so in this case. But let's forget about that for the moment. But let's consider about the growth in this. Now the question mark arises. Tea is something that is produced by nature. So whenever something is produced by nature, it has a limit. So how are we going to manage the excess demand? Are we going to focus on inorganic type of plantations as well? So there is a question mark coming in. So just keep in mind, students, for your detailed understanding and the application as well. So now coming forward, students, cultural differences also affect the manner in which tea is prepared and consumed. For example, black tea is very popular in some countries and green tea is preferred in another. Relative popularities of tea bags versus loose tea also varies significantly. So get the understanding very, very well because it's the ideology, students. Now, coming into the piping's history and the products. Now, I think we have successfully done the industry statistics. Tea is something natural and it has a growth ideologically. And they have given the segments of teas and the tea blending process also. So now coming into piping, our major company. So we were able to connect piping in detail, but again, this will be more interesting as well. So piping was founded in 1852. I can say immense establishment. I think they have already experienced Spanish flu even before COVID-19. They have experienced the Spanish flu and they would have experienced the World War One and the Two as well. So already very much experienced organization. In case there's a war of Russia-Ukraine affecting the tea supply, still these people have the stress testing capacity to analyze those things in their past history. Northlandia's climate is unsuitable for growth of tea shrubs. So the tea manufacturers have always relied on imported tea leaves. So they are reliant on the imported tea leaves and specifically coming from the East Africa and the South Asia. Tea drinking has been a part of Northlandia's culture for many years and remains popular. So the demand is inelastic because it's a part of their culture, students. The company was listed on Northlandia Stock Exchange in 1974. So it's clearly mentioning that there is a very strong establishment even in the stock market. Even after the shares are floated, there is high level of establishment in the stock market as well. Okay, now students, coming into the detailed application, piping has grown steadily, focusing exclusively on black tea, as I told you. The Northlandia leading tea manufacturer for many years, piping now produces several varieties of tea, including two of the most popular teas in the country. Piping tea, that is in tea bags, and loose tea, and piping strong flavor, which is a tea bag. Now this piping strong flavor, I'll put a triple star. It's and having a nice story on how they developed it. It has more connection with many concepts of the tea too as well. Piping was first company to manufacture tea bags in Northlandia. So they have the first mover advantage, and the culture wise they would have been very close to the people in the market, introducing them to the market in 1958. Since then, it has created a number of innovative designs of tea bags. Each design change is claimed to improve the flavor of the tea made from the tea bag. So the flavor is generally having a connection with what they do. Northlandians prefer tea bags to loose tea bags because they prefer to tea bags to loose tea bags. So they prefer tea bags. So piping manufactures 360 million tea bags every week. The company also sells loose tea in packets to cater the demand for the minority consumers who prefer to make tea for the loose teas as well. So get the point of view very, very well, students. Piping teas are regarded as a premium product that are slightly more expensive than competing brand. So they are premium as well. The company buys good quality tea leaves. It spends heavily on advertising in order to promote brand awareness. Piping's packaging is both visually appealing and is designed to keep the content fresh. So students, they are heavily derived on the marketing. Example like Coca-Cola, everything. So one brand I can generally say it's on marketing is Dilma, because this company once upon a time sponsored the Sri Lankan national cricket team, and it was also producing World Cup as well. So it's again the awareness they create because it's a little bit of premium ended product. Piping tea is popular because it matches the preference of the Northlandian consumers, who generally like strong flavor that can be enhanced by both milk and sugar. Most of the company's output is sold through retailers Northlandia. Although it exports tea to countries the share of preference for strong tea. Exports are also driven by the demand from the Northlandian expatriates who have settled abroad and wish to continue drink their favorite tea. So I told you it's a part of their culture. So most of the citizens living in this area generally prefers that favorite type of tea as well. So coming to the next one, which is the operations. Now this is the process which is very important for the consumers to get the tea taste as much as possible. So coming into the operations, Piping has a factory in the central city Northlandia. So they have only one factory. Students, they have only one factory. So I will be very careful. It's only one factory. So you need to be very careful, students. One factory has a high risk. There can be a situation of a bottleneck. Students, bottleneck is there in your P2 syllabus. So be very careful. It can be bottleneck where it employs 700 staffs. A further 200 staffs are involved in buying, marketing, administration. They are based in the head office that is close to the factory. So 700 plus 200. Students, just remember there can be technological advancement and there can be a situation of a provision for redundancy. Anything can come into the picture. So students, coming into the detailed application once again, black tea is purchased at auctions held in various tea producing countries. Auctions in various tea producing countries. Piping has a sophisticated digital buying system that predicts companies' requirement for tea from different location and matches those requirements to the timing of the scheduled tea auctions. So I can say the IT strategy is very strong here because it generally identifies the demand and supply very, very well. And students, there can be a situation of a system issues coming in the examination. So please be kind enough to keep those things in mind. That enables purchasing department to identify buying opportunities that are relevant to the company. Inventories of teas can be managed efficiently, minimizing holding cost and the wastages. The price of black tea varies according to supply and demand, but it also a single most expensive component for piping cost, typically exceeding the 40% of their manufacturing cost because the price for the black tea. So students, that's an uncontrollable situation because it's coming through the auction, which is maybe a regulated, but we don't know. There can be a situation we can do a reverse takeover or we can go for a backward integration and acquire the organization of a plantation where we can get the tea directly to our factory also. So coming to each batch of tea is purchased as sampled on delivery by Piping's tea blender because the sampling is critically important, students. Because if your sampling goes wrong, there can be a situation that your product taste can be different. The company has 6 blenders who have been testing the laboratory beside the factory. Each batch of leaves has its own unique flavor, which means piping teas would not be consistent over time. The blenders have the skill to taste each batch and to adjust for slight differences in the flavor, color, aroma by altering the proportions of teas from different countries and different plantations. They use their judgment to decide the precise mix of different batches to be used in the blending processes. So students, just remember that that's a very important area at the moment. So now students, coming into the detailed analysis, they are stating that black tea leaves are packaged in large paper sacks at the plantation. The sacks are shipped to Piping's factory on wooden pallets that are stacked inside the shipping containers. Unprocessed black tea can be stored for years, although its flavor will deteriorate slightly if stored for more than few months. Manufacturers will in any case be keen to minimize inventory holding cost by processing black tea and selling finished product as quickly as possible. But one good thing about the tea is it's a FMCG, because it's a fast moving consumer good. People consume tea on a daily basis. So the inventory issue will not be a bigger challenge. When they are required for production, the paper sacks are transported mechanically and emptied into a metal drum, with the number of sacks from each batch of black tea specified by the tea blenders. The drums rotate slowly until the tea leaves from each batch have been mixed evenly. A sample is tested by the factory quality control technicians to confirm the mixture of the leaves in the drum is satisfactory before any further processing. So, coming into the next one, if the blended tea leaves are sold as loose tea, then they are loaded onto production line that weigh out the correct amount of each packet of tea. The tea leaves are then dropped onto the sheet of foils and they are cut. The folded sealed are using heat and create packets of tea. The packets are placed in cardboard boxes and formed onto the production line that creates a retail box of tea that are ready to be stacked onto the retailer's shelves. The retail box are loaded into the card boxes for shipping. So get the understanding very clearly, students. This is how it generally works out. So they are just giving you how the packaging is done. And I don't feel there is a premium quality according to the pictures they have given. But in the real life, maybe there are some premium packaging as well. So the process for making tea leaves is very similar. The leaves are required for each tea bags are placed on the strip of paper. The second strip of paper goes through the top strips and fused together in the tea leaves. The fused strips is then cut into the separate individual tea bags. More expensive tea brands of tea bags, including piping, have a tag attached to make it easier for consumers to lift them out of their cup. Individual tea bags can also be packaged in a paper envelope to maintain freshness and to permit branding to be printed on each tea bags. Tea bags are placed in foil, boxed, placed in outer cardboard boxes for transportation or retailers. These are two separate production lines for loose tea and the tea bags. All processes are highly mechanized. 700 production staffs are employed to monitor the operation of machinery of production line. Now the question asked is 700 staffs are just employed to monitor. Now students, there are high chances there can be a situation instead of staffs you can have CCTV cameras, right? So that can change it. Carrying a preventive maintenance and deal with breakdowns, the machinery undertakes almost all the manufacturing and handling of inventory. Okay, students, now coming into the marketing and distribution. So marketing and distribution, it's another process and it's again a little different compared to the other businesses what we have learned. Piping products are sold through most major retailers in Northlandia. The marketing and the distribution department has two main functions. So one is advertising, one is accounts management. And I will put a double star for the accounts management students because it's a little bit different. Piping invests heavily on advertising in order to maintain brand awareness. The company's brand name is one of the most recognizable in the country, but it remains important to advertise through traditional and online channels in order to prevent loss of market share. So one thing I will specifically mention is online. So they are established in the online channel, students, for your understanding. Advertising also help piping to develop brand loyalty from younger customers who might switch to other drinks such as coffee. So brand loyalty is also one more reason why they are having this as well. And the advertising team is a part of Piping's marketing and distribution department. It has substantial budget for the development of new adverts and broadcasting and publication. So there is a budget allocation given for them as well. Students, there is again an ethical issue because I will come to that on marketing also, because when you are marketing also, you need to market responsibly for a product. So coming to the accounts management, students. So accounts management. Piping is the largest tea manufacturer in North India, and most food retailers wish to sell piping's product. Piping strives to maintain a strong relationship with major retailers by having designated account of management its marketing and distribution department. This team functions to engage with buyers employed by the retailers. Typically, a major retail customer will be assigned an account manager who will be designated to contact between piping and the retailers in buying department. Account managers will also seek to encourage buyers to place regular order, increasing their spend as much as possible. For example, account managers might be authorized to offer a discount in return to increase the regular order. So students, one thing is discount. There is a discount, students. There is a discount process. So be very careful. Account managers also keep retailers informed about the forthcoming promotions such as new advertising campaigns that hopefully increase the demand as well. So they are a little connected, but the question arises is they have the power to give discount. Account managers frequently visit supermarkets to check the placement of piping's products on the shelf. Supermarket shelf space is always limited and extend to location of products on the shelves that can have significant impact on sales. So students, I'll just mention this also because there is something called direct product profitability. Direct product profitability because they are specifically considering on the shelf space as well. For example, the product placed an eye level tends to sell better than those on the higher or the lower shelves. So coming to the next one, students, the piping, marketing and the distribution department keeps close contact with consumers to ensure that the tea remain popular. The company makes several varieties of tea. Each of them aims to attract their own specific niche tea drinkers. For example, piping strong flavor was developed 5 years ago because of the feedback. Sizable minority consumers were using 2 bags per cup to strengthen the flavor they wish. So, students, this has something related to target costing. This has something related to target costing, and there is something called functional analysis. Students, you would have understood that functional analysis, value analysis, value engineering. So students, get these ideas properly, students. These are the applications you need to be very much careful, students. The piping marketing department is also having a small team of sales managers who seeks to expand export sales. So students, I told you there can be an expansion situation for sure. Although the company's brand image is strongly associated with North India, there are nevertheless some other countries in which piping brands are popular. There are also several countries where retailers sell piping tea to meet the demand from local communities, the Northlandian expatriates who enjoy drinking piping tea. It reminds them of home. So there are chances you can target a new market as well. Now coming to the next one, students, which is little more concern because I will write down something called integrated reporting. Now this section is always tested nowadays, students. Examiner loves this area because this is something new and also experienced in the corporate environment as well for your basic idea. So most tea plantations are located in developing countries. So I told you developing countries are the regions where the plantations are. So I told you there are ethical concerns about their health factors, human rights, everything, which has led to some controversy over the rates of pay for the working condition imposed on plantation, because plantation workers in reality are exploited because this came through the colonization from the British, Dutch tills now, because they are not paid even well at the moment. Piping, in common with most tea manufacturers, buy tea leaves from auctions, and so the company has a very little direct contact with the plantations themselves. The fact the prices are set at auction means that there is at least some transparency over the pricing. But the issue is the bigger bosses will get the benefit of that, not the workers. So there is a capitalism taking place there. Moving, piping supports number of local charity. That's excellent. Are the initiatives of tea growing countries that intend to encourage plantation owners to treat their workers fairly. So relationship and social capital, I can generally say they are investing on relationship and the social capital. These are very strong point of view. This initiative offer practical support such as funding to school, medical facilities, tea growing region that are too remote for government facilities. So also they are also helping the human capital also to grow. Further students, this will give lot of values to the company's share price. The share price can be boosted because of the investments they make towards the humanity and the social welfare. Piping manufacturers' processes are designed to use resources efficiently. With the minimum waste, its production lines are maintained regularly in order to reduce the amount of power required to their operations. Products are designed to eliminate the waste. For example, all packaging is recyclable and used as a little material as possible in order to reduce the weight and transportation cost. So students, be very careful with that. There can be a situation of cost control as well. Piping tea bags and loose tea leaves can be recycled by the consumers. The paper in the tea bags are biodegradable and used tea leaves are excellent fertilizers as well. Piper's packaging provides consumer advice on recycling. So they have successfully done this, but we don't know, there can be allegations coming in the future as well. So students, this is the piping's management structure at the moment. Now, if you see, it's a listed organization and they have given the non-executive board also. Now, if you see, you have the COO, the marketing director, the finance, the HR, and the production. Students, we do not have anyone specifically for the IT, because students, IT department is very important because currently they have a sophisticated system and there is nothing there for the research and development students. Because remember one thing, research and development is always important for the growth of any organization and any businesses. And also students, later we have not seen anything on the HR on health and safety, because health and safety is one major thing students, not only for our organization, also for the plantation workers also. Now students, even if you see the non-executive directors, we do not have the independent committees. Students, if you observe, a listed organization should generally have independent committees, correct? So students, please tell me the independent committees are the audit committee, then you have the remuneration committee, then you have the risk committee, and then you have the nomination committee. So students, just remember these are the very important fundamental committees that must be there. Each of the executive directors other than the chief executive is responsible for a specific functional area. Marketing distribution is managed as a profit center. So students, marketing and distribution is managed as a profit center. We don't know, but we need to think about it. And other four functional areas are cost center. So students, other four functional areas are cost center. They are specifically stating arguments can come in the future on performance measurement. So students, piping's business model. So this area is always given in the pre-seen materials in the new syllabus. So defining the value, creating the value, delivering value, and the capturing the residual value. So coming into this, piping defines value in terms of the needs, wishes of the consumers. That's what they have developed, that strong T they are saying. So they will always consider what consumer wants and they will update it. That's something good and appreciated, we can say. Piping pays close attention to the feedback from the customers and adapt to maintain a popularity of its brand. So that is one more thing they generally have. Creating value. So piping sources good quality materials for its products and their packaging. So they are stating they have a strong procurement network so that they can produce the best packaged tea. Piping constantly innovates and maintains the quality of its product and the manner in which they are packaged. So the delivering, how you are going to distribute the product to the market. Piping markets its product in a clear and relevant manner to maintain brand loyalty. Piping has an efficient distribution system that ensures products are readily available. So this one is major retailers, but students in the examination, there can be a situation nowadays, even the online stores can be used because you have online retail stores nowadays. So the online stores can be a changeover. So capturing the residual value. Piping buys high quality materials, add value to the manufacturing process in order to justify the premium they charge. So that's clear. And one more thing is 1852 establishment. That's also one point of view. Piping supports growers by paying realistic prices. Piping controls costs through operational efficiencies in the manufacturing. Now, students coming forward into the application. So, piping has always used good quality tea leaves in order to ensure that consumers were prepared to pay a premium price in comparison to the main competitors. That's one good thing. Piping teas are slightly more expensive than the competing brands. Understood? Even so, tea is relatively inexpensive beverage when compared to other drinks such as coffee, fruit infusion, cold drinks such as soda. Many tea drinkers are prepared to pay a little more for the brand of tea they enjoy because students generally tea, some people drink tea early morning. So morning they drink tea, in the evening also they drink tea. So they are okay to pay an extra premium for that just to get that flavor. So piping has always been at forefront of innovation. For example, it introduced the tea bags in the Northlandia tea market. So that's an innovation they have made. Since then, it has introduced a number of different products, primarily through packaging. For example, piping has redesigned its tea bags several times. The current design is complex shape and it has been engineered to permit boiling water to flow through more effectively and consumers have a better tasting drink. The company also used a patented process that seals the foil that contains loose tea and the tea bags fresher for a longer. Apart from extending the shelf life, it also improves the tea flavors as well. So they have the patent, so be very careful of that, students. Now coming to the next one, piping pays close attention to consumer feedback, as I already told you. The consumers has a website and consumers are encouraged to leave comments. The marketing and the distribution department has a team that monitors social media looking for comments and tea drinking. So, students, there can be a situation on the people's skill where negative reviews can spread. So, you need to be prepared of that as well. Negative reviews that is spread. How you are going to handle that situation. And marketing and the distribution has a group of facilitators who hold focus of group meeting and tea tasting in supermarkets across Northlandia. Facilitators are small group of consumers to discuss their opinion about tea drinking. Participants are also asked to taste, comment on samples of teas made from piping from competing brands. Consumer feedback has driven the number of changes, including launch of new tea in order to meet the changing preferences and the modification of packaging. For example, some consumers complain that the new foil packaging was difficult to open and so the design was modified slightly to make it easier to use while preserving the freshness. So clearly we can identify students market as a feedback and they update it. So, Piping's market research indicates that the consumers believe that the tea has health enhancing effect. That's true. It would have been against law for tea companies to make claims to use the effect unless they conducted the trials of pharmaceutical drugs. There needs to be a proving. There are some stock tea companies who generally make statement advertising, not claim health benefits. So be very careful, students. on marketing because it clearly mentioned that's important. So here they are giving you some idea of how the marketing has been done. They have used this as the antioxidants just for enough for caffeine. So legally, piping would breach if it claims to have high antioxidant quality tea, but stagning the correctly. So they are clearly mentioning how they can do it. Now, students, competition. Now, you get the understanding very clearly. This is an oligopoly market, I can specifically say. It's not a perfect monopolistic competition. It's oligopoly market. It's oligopoly market. Because why? Because if you see, tea is available, but only very few people dominate the market because of their presence. Their market shares are strong. So piping directly direct competitor of Hotlo teas. Hotlo competes in piping's market and producing good quality loose teas and tea bags. Hotlo follows piping's policy of selling the products in attractive and practical packaging that reflects the quality of tea itself. Piping also faces competition from three other large manufacturers that sells in Northlandia. Value Tea that sells a budget brand low price tea, and the Jenny Tea and the Own Tea manufactures own brand tea. So students, this is the market competition, but if you still see piping is the leader, but there can be situation at low or a new entrant can take over. There are chances, but always one thing that is making this is this 1852 establishment, because this will be generally in their mind for a longer period of time. So students, ratio analysis section, I will do it separately in another video, but you need to make sure students you are very clear with this process as well. And just remember they have given intangible assets, so make sure that you are aware of. There are no goodwill at the moment, and they have given the revenue segmental analysis as well, and I'll do this detailedly in the ratio class to make it understandable. And the annual report of Hatlo also given their main idea of that, so we can go through that as well in detail. Now students, I told you this news reports, they generally give the students so that as a finance manager you get directly involved with the case. So students, here botanists make their mark. So I told you students, here there is an article specifically stating botanists have developed new plant varieties where it can be grown in any places you want. So students, this has a clear evidence of inorganic growth. But one thing students, on inorganic growth there can be a situation of ethical issues. Students, I'll just mention here there can be a situation of what issues? Ethical issues as well. Okay. So coming down to the next one, Dr. Maina's health column, and here they are specifically mentioning about the decaffeinated coffee or the tea, because caffeine is there because sometimes it will affect your sleep if you drink it in the late night. So how you are going to decaffeinate? So these are the new products that you can concentrate, and here they are stating about the manufacturing process of how the tea papers and the tea legs are done. So here there can be a situation of a new investment appraisal because they are saying banana leaves are used, so you can get an idea of that as well. So students, effectively considering, I believe we have done the full analysis. So once again students, good luck with your examination, and remember that you are the finance manager of this company. So I'll see you on another video. Have a wonderful exam diet for the May and the August. Have a wonderful time students. God bless everyone.